We have a question from Random Dude. Thanks, Random Dude. Sometimes feelings can be hurt with false transparency. How do you manage jealousy and issues of subjective fairness with transparent salaries and equity? Great question. We do have those problems, and yeah, I think I firstly want to acknowledge we definitely have those issues. People share the struggles and disagreements about the formula and whether they are at the correct level or whether their location is put into the right bracket for the pay scale that we have and things. A couple of things we do. First thing I would say is that this is going to be better with transparency than without, because everything's more open. So you can go and see everyone else's salary, and honestly, if you don't have transparency, people are going to talk about it anyway, and you just will hear about it less as leaders. So I think it only disguises it somewhat. So it might feel like it comes out more with transparency, or it might feel like there's the risk of that happening or the challenge of that. But I think I would much rather that happen, and we talk about it openly. So, and then something else we do is we have a fully anonymous way for people to share feedback with us. They can use it anytime at all, and we also trigger it when we do all hands and we do any memo we put out there, things like that, and we just have a link to it and say, okay, you can share your anonymous feedback. So we've had quite a few people through that forum be able to share some of their concerns. And then I think anytime we make a large change, changing the salary formula, or talking about changing our pricing, and it's going to affect all different parts of the company, affect the customer advocacy team and things, we try and do what we've started to call kind of like a listening tour of the company. Really try and go around and talk to a lot of people. I think the bigger a decision, the bigger a change, or the more impactful something is, we'll try and talk to more and more people. And I personally like to do some of those one-on-one because I think people might open up more. So try and just do multiple different formats of that, where we have some group discussions, we have some one-on-one conversations, but we really try and say, there's a big change happening, let's go and talk to people. So those are some of the things we've done. How can you do an all-hands meeting with people in so many time zones?
I have an answer. Don't do it. We don't do it.
Oh.
Yeah, well, they do it, but we don't do it.
I will respectfully disagree, but that's one option. We do all hands. We do it every 2 months, and I think it's hard. I think actually Steph from the team is here, and she's based in Singapore, where only about I think about 6 or 7% of the team is in the Asia-Australia time zone. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, the all hands is at a very awkward time for Steph and for others in this time zone. Could be 1 a.m. or something. So when we do them, we try and place it in a time that is as overlapping with as many people as possible. But the flip side to that would be that that's kind of not fair to the others and not necessarily inclusive of others. So I actually think we should probably flip it around sometimes and just change the time, even if it's bad for a lot of people. So I think we'll probably do that as well. But then the other key thing is that we record them. So Zoom makes it really easy to record and then just share that recording. And so there's no obligation at all to be there in the all hands, and that's been a key thing for us as well. But I think there's a lot of value still in all hands for us, so that's how we do it. Question from Justin: where did transparency not work for Buffer, and why? Yeah, this is a great question. I have so at one point we really wanted to push the boundaries of the default to transparency. So we said, how about feedback? Let's take feedback, and we made. It didn't last too long, but we made feedback fully transparent. So anytime you're giving feedback to someone, positive or negative, it would be immediately viewable by the whole company. And this was very challenging. I think there's elements of human psychology and just many different things that came into play. So that's probably an example where we maybe didn't need to try it to know it. But I think that we have tried to push some of those boundaries. That's one that we pulled back on and said that we generally try to, if something involved is very private, it's personal, we will really question it hard and generally not be transparent about that. One thing I would say, though, is that even I think transparency can be beneficial even for those tough feedback and things, because if you don't have transparency, then when it happens to you, you might feel like it only happens to you, and you might, or if you hear about someone being let go, you might not have any of that context and things. So we have explored quite a lot. For example, when someone does get feedback, we try and encourage them, if you feel comfortable about the specific topic and things, and you think it's valuable for others, then please share that and share that learning and say, okay, I did this, got this feedback, I learned something and I've changed it and wanted to share it. So that's like a way to still, you don't necessarily have to go, fully transparent or not transparent, with some of these things. So, next question. I'm going to answer the one about, Joel, you mentioned that you've had multiple salary formula versions. How did you manage to change the formula when some people will gain and some people will lose? This is one of those things that I think in the earlier days, I was a bit younger and maybe quite naive, and we did actually lower some salaries for some people at some points, and then we learned quite a few lessons along the way of that. People really plan their lives around their salary. They'll have certain apartment and rent and mortgage and things like that, and so we don't do that anymore. And so anytime we're changing the salary formula, we will always keep your salary where it is if it would end up going down. We try to generally avoid that. I think that luckily, as a company grows, this is another reason why we enjoy being profitable, because you give yourself that margin so that if something really was to happen with customers in the market, then you can actually, that you have a bit of room there without it suddenly being, okay, now we can't afford to even do payroll. But I think generally things are on our side, because over time you've got inflation, you've got your company's generally ideally going to be growing and more successful, and you have more ability to pay people, start to increase that, where you are amongst the market and things. So that's kind of what the path we've been on. So we've not had too many occasions where we've felt like we've had to reduce it, but we have had changes we've had to make where there has been some people that technically would have been lower, because we've just realized there's corrections we need to make and things. I think.
Yeah, I can actually just add something to that. Like, we recently did a salary change formula that actually changed salary significantly, and we didn't lower anybody. Like, I think if you need to lower salaries, do it to everybody. Like, don't do it to individuals, because I think like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's give it up
Cool.
for Joel and
Thanks,
Amir.
everyone.